Welcome back to Secrets Exposed. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. You're the reason these stories worth sharing. Tell us where you're watching from, city or country. We're amazed by how far these tales reach. To get daily new and amazing stories for you, subscribe our channel and press bell icon. All right, let's begin. The garage door creaked open with a low groan, the kind of sound that echoed in an empty night. Captain Marcus Hale stepped carefully onto the concrete floor, his boots leaving faint scuffs against the dust. It was just past 2 a.m., the hour when a house should be swallowed in silence. Instead, a faint noise reached him, soft, broken sobs, muffled as if trapped beneath layers of fear. Marcus froze. His hand instinctively moved toward his hip, where his pistol rested in its holster. He had just come back from deployment hours earlier, driving home under cover of night to surprise his family. His heart had been light then, picturing Lily's sleepy smile when she woke to find her father home early. He had imagined Evelyn's arms around him, the warm relief of reunion. Instead, something darker waited here. The single light bulb in the garage flickered to life when he tugged the switch. The glow was harsh, revealing tools hung neatly on the walls, an old bicycle leaning against a shelf, the faint smell of gasoline clinging to the air. But in the center of it all, framed by shadows, was a wooden chair. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. His 10-year-old daughter, Lily, was bound to it. Rough ropes cut into her small wrists, tying her arms tightly behind her back. Duct tape sealed her mouth, muting her cries in a muffled whimpers that tore straight into his chest. Her eyes were wide, brimming with terror, pupils darting desperately toward him. Every instinct screamed at him to rush forward, to scoop her up and tear the restraints apart. But Marcus had been trained to assess, to control his heartbeat when panic pressed against his ribs. He didn't move, not yet, because he wasn't the only one in the room. A figure stepped from the shadows near the workbench. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a smug grin that instantly set Marcus's blood boiling. A knife glinted in his hand, the blade catching the yellow light. Daniel. Marcus had seen him once before, a neighbor, a man Evelyn claimed needed help fixing his car. Nothing more. Marcus hadn't thought twice about it at the time, but seeing him here, standing inches from Lily with a knife in hand, turned the memory sour. "Didn't expect you back so soon, soldier," Daniel said, his voice low, mocking. He tapped the blade gently against the chair, and Lily whimpered louder, twisting in her restraints. Marcus's jaw clenched, his fingers brushing the pistol grip. But before he could speak, another sound slipped through the garage. Her voice. Evelyn. She stood in the corner, half hidden in shadow, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Her face was pale, lips pressed into a hard line. She wasn't crying. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't moving to stop Daniel. Instead, her gaze was cold, detached. And when she spoke, her words were sharp enough to slice Marcus in half. "Do it," she whispered. "Finish it." Marcus's stomach dropped. His wife's voice, the same voice that once spoke vows of love and loyalty, now urged another man to harm their child. Lily's muffled cries grew desperate, her body thrashing against the ropes. Marcus's heart thundered in his chest. He felt his training wrestle with his emotions, fury colliding with disbelief. His pistol was in his hand now, the metallic click of its safety switch echoing like a thunderclap in the tense silence. He leveled it at Daniel, his voice low but steady, carved from steel. "Step away from her." Daniel smirked wider, unfazed by the weapon pointed directly at him. Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. The air grew thicker, heavier, until it felt like the entire garage was suffocating. Marcus stood at the threshold of his family's destruction, unsure of how the pieces had shattered but certain of one thing. Whatever was happening tonight, it was only the beginning. And Lily's wide, terrified eyes told him he couldn't afford to hesitate. The silence stretched, broken only by the faint hum of the light bulb overhead and Lily's muffled sobs. Marcus's arms were rigid, his pistol trained firmly on Daniel, but his eyes flicked toward Evelyn. He searched her face for any sign, panic, shame, regret, but found none. She stood still, like stone, as if watching a scene she had already chosen to accept. Marcus's voice came out low, restrained, controlled by years of training, even as his heart clawed at his ribs. Untie her. Now. Daniel tilted his head, amusement flickering across his face. He tapped the knife against the chair leg, the sound sharp in the stillness. That's not how this works, he replied calmly. See, you weren't supposed to be here yet. You ruined the plan. The words sank into Marcus's ears like poison. His grip tightened around the pistol. He had returned a week earlier than expected, leaving his unit without warning, eager to surprise his family. A decision that now seemed fated, though not in the way he had imagined. Lily thrashed in the chair, her wide eyes locked on him, begging silently. Marcus forced his voice steady. You touch her, and you don't walk out of here alive. Daniel chuckled, a low rumble that grated against Marcus's nerves. Tough words. But do you even know what's happening here? He glanced at Evelyn, who finally shifted, her arms tightening across her chest. Marcus's eyes snapped to her. Evelyn, he said, his voice breaking for the first time. What is this? Why is he here? Why is she tied up? For a moment, her lips parted, as if an answer hovered on her tongue. But then her jaw tightened, and she looked away. No denial. No explanation. Daniel smirked at Marcus's silence. She's not the woman you think she is, Captain. She's been waiting for this moment. The room spun with tension. Marcus's mind raced, flashing back to the small things he had brushed aside. The nights Evelyn claimed she was too tired to video call. The car parked in the driveway he didn't recognize. The neighbors' odd glances, their hesitant small talk. He had ignored it all, trusting her, trusting their family. And now his daughter sat bound in a chair while his wife whispered death into the darkness. Marcus's throat burned as he turned back to Daniel. Untie her, or I swear, you won't get the chance to regret it. Daniel didn't move. Instead, he crouched slightly, lowering the knife close enough that the tip hovered above Lily's shoulder. She whimpered, her body trembling so violently the chair creaked beneath her weight. Marcus's heart cracked. He remembered Lily at 5 years old, running barefoot across the yard, squealing with laughter when he chased her. He remembered the way she drew little pictures of him in uniform, tucking them into his duffel before each deployment. To see her now, gagged, helpless, terror pouring from her eyes, was almost unbearable. Evelyn's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp and cruel. He won't do it. He still thinks he can save this. Her words dripped with contempt, as if the very sight of Marcus standing there made her ache with disappointment. The weight of betrayal pressed hard against his chest. The woman he had trusted with everything, his home, his daughter, his heart, was standing against him. Not with fear, but with intention. Daniel smirked again, sensing Marcus's hesitation. See? She gets it. You don't. This isn't about saving her. This is about truth. Marcus's breath grew shallow. He could see it now. This wasn't random, wasn't a moment of madness. This was planned. Every look Evelyn had avoided, every late-night message she claimed was from a friend, every distance that had grown between them, it all led here. Still, his voice came out firm, steady, deadly. Step away from her. Now. Daniel leaned closer to Lily, close enough that Marcus could see her breath fog against his arm. Tell me, Captain, Daniel sneered. What are you going to do when you find out she isn't even yours? The words sliced through Marcus like a blade. His body stiffened, his finger twitching on the trigger. Lily's muffled cry filled the silence, her head shaking violently, as if to deny the very suggestion. Marcus's world tilted, but he didn't let the pistol waver. He couldn't. Not while his daughter, his little girl, was still in danger. The tension in the garage thickened, unbearable, as the line between truth and nightmare blurred. Marcus didn't know what to believe anymore. But one thing remained certain. If Daniel made a single wrong move, Marcus would pull the trigger without hesitation. And in that suffocating moment, staring down the man who held a knife to his daughter and the woman who had once promised him forever, Marcus realized his family had already begun to shatter long before tonight. The garage felt smaller by the second, the air tightening around Marcus's chest. His pistol was steady, but his mind was a storm. Daniel crouched lower, the knife gleaming inches from Lily's skin, and Evelyn stood silent in the corner, her face set in stone. Lily's muffled cries grew louder, her small body jerking against the ropes. Her eyes locked on her father's, desperate, pleading, filled with terror that pierced deeper than any battlefield Marcus had ever survived. He couldn't let her down. He couldn't let her believe for even a second that he wouldn't save her. Daniel, Marcus growled, his voice low and edged with fire, step away from her. Right now, Daniel chuckled, shaking his head. You're not in control here, soldier. You think this is still your house? That's your mistake. You left, someone else filled the space. The words burned like acid. Marcus had been gone for months, serving overseas, trusting Evelyn to hold the family together. He thought absence was the price of duty, that his sacrifice was for them. But now, watching Evelyn's cold detachment, he realized the truth. While he was fighting for their country, someone else had been fighting for his home. Marcus's jaw tightened. His voice cut through the air. Lily is innocent. She doesn't deserve this. Daniel smirked. Innocent? Maybe, but she's not what you think she is. Marcus's heart skipped, but before he could demand answers, Lily let out a strangled scream against the tape. Her small body thrashed so violently that the chair rocked back, slamming against the concrete floor. The sound echoed through the garage, jolting Marcus's entire body into focus. He took a sharp step forward, pistol raised higher. I said, put the knife down. Daniel straightened slightly, the smirk never leaving his face. You'd kill me? With your daughter, right here? You'd risk that. His eyes glinted with arrogance, knowing the fear in Marcus's heart. Marcus's breathing grew heavier, his vision narrowing to the knife's edge. His finger hovered against the trigger, the weight of decision pressing harder than any mission he had ever carried out. And then Evelyn spoke. Her voice was calm, cruel, like she had already rehearsed it. Marcus, stop pretending. You think you're her savior, her protector, but you're living in a lie. The words froze Marcus in place. He turned his head slightly toward her, his eyes burning. What did you just say? Evelyn's gaze didn't flinch. You've been clinging to a family that was never yours to keep. Daniel is right. This isn't about saving Lily. It's about finally facing the truth. Lily whimpered louder, her head shaking violently, her eyes darting between her mother and her father. Tears streamed down her face, shining in the flickering bulb. Marcus's chest heaved, fury and heartbreak warring inside him. He had been betrayed before, by comrades, by missions gone wrong, but nothing had prepared him for this. The woman he had trusted most in the world now stood aligned with the man threatening their child. Daniel leaned closer to Lily, whispering loud enough for Marcus to hear. Tell him the truth, Evelyn. Or should I? For the first time, Evelyn hesitated. Her lips pressed together, her shoulders tightening. The faintest flicker of conflict flashed across her face, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by that same cold defiance. Not here, she said sharply. Not yet. Daniel smirked, standing taller, the knife still in his hand. Fine. Then I'll let him keep wondering. Marcus's stomach twisted. The fragments of truth dangled just out of reach. Each word Evelyn and Daniel spoke pulling him deeper into a nightmare he couldn't yet understand. He didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever the truth was, it was worse than he imagined. And as Lily's sobs filled the garage, Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing down harder. He couldn't hesitate. He had to act, not just as a soldier, but as the father Lily believed him to be. The next move he made would decide whether his daughter lived or whether the lies Evelyn carried destroyed them all. Marcus's arms ached from holding the pistol steady, but his resolve didn't waver. Every breath felt heavier. Every second stretched into an eternity. Lily's terrified sobs filled the garage, muffled behind the tape, and Marcus's mind screamed for him to end this standoff before it spiraled further. Daniel tilted his knife lazily, circling it inches from Lily's skin as though toying with Marcus's breaking point. You're not asking the right questions, Captain, he taunted. You keep demanding I let her go, but you haven't asked why she's here in the first place. Marcus's jaw clenched. His voice was low, thunderous. Then tell me, why is my daughter tied up in my garage? Why are you here with that knife? Before Daniel could answer, Evelyn stepped forward, her heels clicking faintly against the cement. The sound was sharp, deliberate, like a drumbeat of betrayal. She bent down, picked something off the workbench, and tossed it across the floor. The envelope slid to a stop at Marcus's feet. "Read it," she said coldly. Marcus didn't move at first. His pistol never wavered, but his eyes darted down. The envelope was thick, sealed with a notary stamp. He slowly crouched, never taking his weapon off Daniel, and slid the papers out. His stomach tightened as he scanned the words. Custody agreement. His name was printed there, not as father, but as non-custodial guardian. The lines blurred as his pulse thundered in his ears. Evelyn's signature was scrawled across the bottom, neat and certain, like it had been written without hesitation. Marcus's throat tightened. "What is this?" Evelyn crossed her arms again, her chin lifted. "It's the truth. You've been clinging to something that doesn't belong to you. Lily doesn't belong to you. Not legally. Not by blood. Not by anything." The words cracked through the air like gunfire. Lily's muffled scream grew louder, her body jerking against the chair so violently that the ropes dug deeper into her skin. Tears streamed down her face, her wide eyes locked on Marcus, desperate for him to deny it. Marcus's vision blurred for a second. He saw years of memories flash like lightning. Her small hand gripping his finger when she learned to walk, her drawings of him in uniform, the way she'd run to him after each deployment shouting "Daddy." He had lived those moments as truth. And now Evelyn spat them out like lies. Daniel smirked, watching Marcus's face collapse under the weight of revelation. "She didn't tell you? Of course she didn't. You'd never have stayed. She let you raise her little secret while she laughed behind your back." Marcus's hand trembled on the pistol grip, but he forced himself to stay grounded. His breathing grew heavy, his chest burning. He turned his eyes back to Evelyn, his voice ragged. "You signed this? You really signed this?" Evelyn's expression didn't falter. "You've been gone more than you've been here. You think love is enough, Marcus? You think bedtime stories make your father? You were just a placeholder." Her words were venom, each one designed to tear deeper than the last. Lily's muffled cries turned into raw, choked sobs. She shook her head furiously, her eyes pleading with Marcus, not to believe it, not to let this truth destroy what they had. Marcus's heart shattered, but beneath the grief, fury began to burn. His voice dropped, steady and unyielding. "Blood or not, she's mine. You hear me?" For the first time, Daniel's smirk faltered. The confidence in his eyes dimmed, just a flicker, but Marcus saw it. Evelyn scoffed, but her arms tightened across her chest. That tiny shift betrayed the first crack in her armor. The silence stretched heavy. The truth had landed like a bomb, but Marcus's resolve remained unbroken. Betrayal had cut deep, but love ran deeper. And as Marcus's eyes stayed locked on Daniel, the air shifted. The standoff wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about identity, about proving who Lily belonged to, not by blood, not by signatures, but by the bond no one could erase. The first layer of truth had been exposed, and Marcus knew more was coming. He could feel it pressing at the edges of the room, waiting to strike. But for now, only one thing mattered: keeping Lily alive, no matter what Evelyn or Daniel revealed next. The papers slipped from Marcus's hands and scattered across the floor like broken glass. His pistol remained locked on Daniel, but his world tilted violently. Custody papers. Evelyn's cold eyes. The taunts about Lily's blood. Every word cut him deeper than a bullet ever could. Lily's muffled sobs echoed through the garage, each one shredding his resolve. She twisted against the ropes, so hard her small wrists began to bleed, the fibers biting into her skin. The chair creaked, threatening to snap under the pressure of her desperate movements. Marcus forced his voice steady, though it cracked under the weight of betrayal. "Untie her. Now, or I end this." Daniel's grin widened, his knife glinting as he leaned closer to Lily. "End it? You? You don't even know what you'd be ending. You've been living in a fantasy, soldier." She's not yours. She never was. And the woman you came home to. His eyes flicked to Evelyn. She was never waiting for you. Marcus's heart slammed against his chest. He glanced at Evelyn, praying for some flicker of remorse. But she only stared back, arms crossed, jaw tight, her silence heavier than any confession. You knew, Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. You knew, and you let me. He cut himself off, his throat raw with rage and disbelief. Daniel straightened, dragging the knife lazily along the edge of the chair. The metallic scrape made Lily flinch, her muffled cries sharp with terror. She let you play father, let you raise a child that wasn't yours. She laughed at you while you tucked her in, while you called her daughter. You were just a stand-in until the truth came out. Shut up, Marcus snapped, his pistol tightening in his grip. His knuckles turned white, veins bulging against the skin. Daniel smirked, unfazed. Hit a nerve? Good. Because here's the thing. You keep calling her yours, but you can't even protect her. He pressed the tip of the knife closer, grazing Lily's arm just enough to draw a thin line of red. Lily screamed against the tape, her body convulsing with terror. Marcus's vision blurred with fury. The air around him seemed to collapse into a tunnel, narrowing to the sight of the blade against his daughter's skin. Move that knife again, Marcus said, his voice trembling with restrained violence. And I swear, Daniel, I'll put you in the ground. For the first time, Daniel paused. His smirk faltered just slightly as he studied Marcus's eyes. The soldier wasn't bluffing. The calm fury radiating from him was the same steel that had broken enemies on the battlefield. But Daniel quickly recovered, tilting his head with a mocking chuckle. You want to protect her? Fine. Then you should know the truth. Evelyn, tell him. Tell him why she wanted this. Evelyn's arms tightened across her chest. She said nothing. Tell him, Daniel barked, his grin widening as he turned the knife back toward Lily. Marcus's voice rose, raw and jagged. Evelyn, her eyes finally met his. For a brief second, something flickered, hesitation, maybe guilt, but it was gone as quickly as it came. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Marcus, you were never supposed to know like this. The words hit him harder than a bullet. Never supposed to know. Marcus's knees nearly buckled under the weight of it. He had been fighting wars overseas, believing he was protecting his family. All the while, his wife was crafting another battlefield at home, one where he was the enemy, not the hero. Lily's sobs shook him back into focus. She didn't understand the words being hurled around her, but she understood fear. She understood betrayal. And right now, she was looking at him like he was the only thing left keeping her alive. Marcus steadied his breath, his pistol unwavering. He pushed the pain down, burying it beneath the soldier's instinct that had kept him alive through fire and chaos. I don't care what you think you know, he growled. Blood or not, she is mine. And if you think you're taking her from me, you're already dead. The garage fell into a suffocating silence. Daniel studied Marcus, his grin faltering for the first time. Evelyn's expression remained unreadable, but her eyes flicked toward the papers on the floor, then back to Marcus, as though bracing for what was still to come. The truth had begun to unravel, but Marcus could feel it. This was only the first cut. The deeper wound was still waiting, hidden in the shadows of his wife's silence. And when it came, it wouldn't just change his family. It would destroy everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and fatherhood. The air inside the garage was heavy, pressing against Marcus's chest like a weight he could barely carry. His pistol was steady, but his insides were in free fall. Evelyn's words, "You were never supposed to know like this," echoed over and over, each repetition another stab of betrayal. Lily whimpered, her small body shaking violently against the chair. The ropes dug deeper into her wrists, streaks of red already visible where the skin had broken. Her muffled cries clawed into Marcus's heart. He took a half step forward, eyes locked on the knife still gleaming in Daniel's hand. Untie her, Marcus demanded again, his voice louder this time, the soldier in him clawing to the surface. Right now, or I swear, I'll put you down where you stand. Daniel smirked, but his eyes flickered, betraying the faintest hesitation. He tapped the blade lightly against the chair, every sound sharp in the suffocating silence. You keep barking orders, Captain, like this is one of your missions. But you don't run this house anymore. Evelyn does. Marcus's jaw tightened. He glanced at his wife, standing in the corner with her arms still folded, her expression unreadable. Evelyn, answer me, he said, his voice cracking from the weight of rage and disbelief. Why is this happening? Why is he here threatening our daughter? Evelyn's eyes darted toward Lily, then back to Marcus. Her lips pressed into a thin line before she finally spoke. Because she was never supposed to be yours. Not from the beginning. Marcus's chest heaved. His mind stumbled, replaying every memory, every birthday, every laugh Lily had ever shared with him. He wanted to scream at Evelyn, to demand clarity, but Daniel seized the moment. Tell him, Evelyn, Daniel pressed, his grin widening. Tell him who she belongs to. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Her silence was its own confession. Lily screamed into the duct tape, her muffled voice breaking into desperate sobs. Her terrified eyes darted wildly between her mother and father, confusion and fear twisting together. Marcus's breath came ragged, his fury rising like a tide. She belongs to me, he growled, his voice steel. Blood or no blood, she's mine, and I'll kill anyone who touches her. Daniel chuckled, though unease flickered in his expression. You keep saying that, but you can't even protect her from the truth. And once it's out, she won't be yours anymore. The words slammed into Marcus like a hammer. He steadied his weapon, fighting to keep his hands from shaking. He was a soldier trained to stare down death, but nothing had prepared him for staring down betrayal in his own home. Daniel leaned closer to Lily, pressing the knife gently against her arm again, the edge grazing her skin. Do you want to know the truth, soldier? It's simple. She's mine. Marcus's vision tunneled. His body surged forward instinctively, finger tightening on the trigger. But Evelyn's voice cut through the storm like a blade. No, she said sharply. Both men froze. Evelyn stepped forward, her arms finally dropping from her chest. Her eyes were dark, her voice low but steady. She's not yours, Daniel. She never was. But she's not Marcus's either. The silence that followed was suffocating. Marcus's heart slammed in his chest, his mind spinning. Lily froze in her chair, tears streaming down her face as she shook her head in confusion. Daniel blinked, caught off guard, before letting out a mocking laugh. So what are you saying? That she's nobody's? Evelyn's lips trembled just slightly before tightening again. I'm saying the man she belongs to isn't here tonight. He doesn't even know. Marcus felt the world crack beneath his feet. His grip on the pistol faltered for just a second. Evelyn's words sank deep, tearing through him like shrapnel. Not his. Not Daniel's. Someone else. Every muscle in Marcus's body screamed for release. Betrayal had a name now, even if it wasn't spoken aloud. Lily's sobs filled the silence, her body convulsing with terror and heartbreak. Marcus steadied his pistol again, his voice breaking through the storm. It doesn't matter whose blood runs in her veins. She is mine, and nothing you say, nothing you've done, will change that. For the first time, Evelyn's expression faltered. A flicker of doubt crossed her face. Daniel sneered, but the blade in his hand wavered ever so slightly. The cracks were showing. The truth had only begun to spill out, but Marcus could feel it. This wasn't the end. The worst of it still waited in the shadows. And when it finally came to light, it would burn everything he thought he knew to the ground. The revelation hung in the air like smoke from a fire, suffocating, impossible to escape. Evelyn's words had split the ground beneath Marcus's feet. Lily was not his child. Not Daniel's either. Another man. A ghost from Evelyn's past that had been hidden for 10 years. Marcus's pistol was still steady, but inside, he was falling apart. His pulse thundered in his ears. His little girl, his Lily, was sobbing against the tape, her wide eyes locked on him, desperate for reassurance. She didn't understand the words flying around her, but she understood fear. She understood betrayal. And most of all, she understood that her father's love was the only lifeline she had left. Marcus tightened his grip on the pistol, his voice slicing through the silence. I don't care whose blood she carries. She's mine. She'll always be mine. Daniel's smirk returned, cruel and mocking. You keep saying that, soldier. But she's not yours. She never was. And now, she never will be. With a sudden movement, he pressed the knife harder against Lily's shoulder. The blade bit shallow into her skin, drawing a thin line of blood. Lily screamed against the tape, her body convulsing in terror, the chair rattling violently against the cement floor. Marcus's heart nearly ripped from his chest. Stop! He roared, his voice raw, breaking. The pistol locked firmly on Daniel's chest. Daniel's grin widened. There it is. The real you. You can kill me, sure. But if you do, you'll never know the whole truth. You'll never know why she wanted this. He jerked his head toward Evelyn, who stood rigid in the corner, her face pale, but her eyes cold. Marcus's gaze snapped to her. His voice cracked, torn between rage and heartbreak. Why? Why, Evelyn? Why would you do this to her, to me? Evelyn's lips parted, trembling for the first time. Because you were never here, she said, her voice sharp, defensive. You left. You were always gone. Deployments, missions, duty, always something more important than us. I had to find someone who was here. The words slammed into Marcus like a physical blow. His chest burned, his stomach twisted. So you punish Lily for that? You let this bastard, he gestured furiously at Daniel, threaten our daughter because you were lonely? Evelyn flinched, but she didn't answer. Daniel laughed. She's not your daughter, Marcus. Stop pretending she is. Evelyn finally decided it was time you faced the truth. Lily's muffled screams grew frantic, her small body twisting against the ropes, her eyes begging Marcus to save her. Marcus steadied his breathing, his soldier's instinct forcing control where his heart was breaking. He raised the pistol higher, his voice low and deadly. Step away from her, Daniel. Now. Daniel tilted his head, still grinning. Make me. The tension snapped. Marcus fired. The shot exploded in the garage, echoing like thunder. Sparks flew from the workbench as the bullet slammed into the wall just inches from Daniel's head. Lily screamed again, her whole body trembling. Daniel froze, his grin flickering, but he quickly recovered with a chuckle. Close, but not enough. Marcus's voice cut through him like a blade. The next one won't miss. The garage went still. Daniel's smirk wavered, but he didn't back down. Evelyn stared at Marcus, her face unreadable, her silence heavier than her words had ever been. Marcus's breathing slowed, his finger tense on the trigger. He had drawn blood tonight, not just from Daniel's threats, but from the truth Evelyn had spilled. His family was no longer what he believed. His marriage was already ashes. But Lily was still alive, still his, no matter what Evelyn or Daniel said. The fight wasn't over. The worst was still waiting. Marcus could feel it in his bones. And as he locked eyes with Daniel, his voice came out like a vow carved in stone. If you take one more step toward her, it'll be your last. The garage reeked of oil, sweat, and fear. The gunshots still echoed in Marcus's ears, the acrid scent of gunpowder clinging to the air. A hole in the wall marked how close Daniel had come to dying. Lily's muffled sobs shook the chair, her tears dripping steadily down her small, trembling chin. Marcus's pistol was unflinching, but inside, his resolve trembled against a storm of emotions. Evelyn's betrayal pulsed through him like poison, each word she had spoken replaying in his mind. She was never supposed to be yours. Not from the beginning. Daniel dragged the knife lazily along the back of the chair, tapping the wood. His smirk was back, though thinner now, a crack in his arrogance showing. You see, Captain, no matter what you do, this ends badly for you. Even if you pull that trigger, you lose. You've already lost. Marcus's voice came out raw, but firm. Not yet. As long as she breathes, I haven't lost a damn thing. Daniel chuckled, but his eyes betrayed unease. He wasn't used to men like Marcus, men who had stared down death and kept walking. Marcus's gaze cut to Evelyn, who still stood near the corner, arms crossed, her body rigid. Her face looked carved from stone, but her eyes flickered with something different now. Not defiance, not victory, fear. Marcus locked onto it. Why? He demanded, his voice sharp. Why let it get this far? Why let him near her? Why tie her up in our garage? Evelyn's lips trembled, but her jaw tightened again. Because you wouldn't have let her go, she said softly, her voice breaking for the first time. You would have fought me in court. You would have dragged her through battles she didn't deserve. I wanted it over, clean. No courts, no hearings. Just over. The words stabbed Marcus in the chest. His arms trembled, the pistol shaking for the first time. Over, he spat. She's a child. Our child. You call this over? This is torture. Evelyn flinched at the word, her eyes flicking toward Lily, whose sobs had turned ragged, weak from the strain. For a split second, guilt flickered across Evelyn's face, but Daniel's mocking laugh drowned it. Don't act like you're surprised. Marcus, Daniel sneered. She was done with you a long time ago. Tonight is just the ending you didn't see coming. Marcus steadied his breath, narrowing his eyes at Evelyn. He's lying. Tell me he's lying. Evelyn's silence was louder than any answer. Marcus's chest heaved. His whole body screamed to collapse, but his soldier's discipline held him upright. He forced his voice low, unshakable. You may have given up on me, but you don't get to give up on her. Not like this. Daniel's grin twisted cruelly. Still clinging to that fantasy? She isn't yours, soldier. Evelyn made sure of that. Marcus's heart cracked, but he didn't waver. His eyes burned into Evelyn's, searching for even a shred of humanity. If she's not mine, then whose is she? He demanded, his voice echoing in the small garage. Evelyn's face paled. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her silence screamed the truth louder than any confession. Daniel chuckled, filling the void. You see? She won't tell you. Because the truth would break you worse than any blade I could put in your gut. Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger, fury and heartbreak colliding. But Lily's sobs brought him back. Her wide, terrified eyes begged him for strength, for hope. He steadied himself, speaking not to Evelyn, not to Daniel, but to Lily. His voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with promise. You're mine, baby girl. No matter what anyone says, you're mine. The words cracked something in Evelyn's mask. She blinked rapidly, her lips trembling, her arms finally dropping from their rigid fold. For the first time, her voice wavered. Marcus, you don't understand. If you keep fighting this, if you don't walk away now, you'll lose more than just her. Her warning hung thick in the air. Daniel's smirk faltered, his eyes darting toward Evelyn in irritation. Something in her tone rattled even him. Marcus saw it, an opening, a fracture. The truth Evelyn was hiding was bigger than he had realized. And when it came out, it wouldn't just redefine Lily. It would redefine every moment of Marcus's life. The garage had turned into a battlefield of silence and half-spoken truths. The faint hum of the light bulb buzzed overhead, but it was drowned out by the sound of Lily's muffled sobs, her body jerking helplessly against the ropes. Marcus's pistol never wavered, but his insides felt torn apart. Evelyn's words replayed over and over. If you keep fighting this, you'll lose more than just her. The threat lingered like smoke, but Marcus couldn't let himself falter. Not while Lily's life hung by a thread. Daniel broke the silence, his voice mocking but sharper now, less steady. You think you've won something here? You think holding that gun makes you the hero? Look around, soldier. You're not saving her. You're already too late. He dragged the knife along the back of the chair again, the scraping sound sharp and deliberate. Lily flinched so violently that the chair rocked forward on two legs before crashing back down. She screamed into the tape, her eyes wide, desperate, fixed only on Marcus. Marcus's chest ached. He kept his voice level, but every word shook with fury. The only thing that's too late is your chance to walk out of here alive. Step away from her. Daniel tilted his head, smirking. Or what? You'll shoot me in front of her? Let her first real memory of the truth be watching you kill a man. The words pierced Marcus. He glanced at Lily, her cheeks streaked with tears, her wrists raw from the ropes. She was too young to carry scars like this. Too young to carry the weight of betrayal, of blood. And yet, here she was. Evelyn's voice suddenly cut through the air. Marcus! He turned toward her sharply, his pistol still aimed at Daniel. Her face had changed. The stone mask was crumbling, her lips trembling, her eyes darting between Marcus and Lily. You don't understand, she whispered. This isn't just about her. It's bigger than that. Marcus's pulse spiked. What does that mean? Evelyn hesitated, her nails digging into her palms. If you don't walk away, they won't stop. They'll come for all of us. Daniel snapped his head toward her, his grin vanishing for the first time. Shut up, Evelyn. Marcus's chest tightened. They. The word rang in his ears. This wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just infidelity. There was something larger, something Evelyn hadn't told him, something even Daniel didn't want exposed. Marcus's voice dropped, lethal. Who are you talking about? Evelyn's lips parted, but Daniel slammed the knife down on the arm of the chair, inches from Lily's skin. The sound made her jolt violently, her scream muffled and raw. Evelyn froze, fear flashing across her face. Not another word, Daniel hissed at her. You'll ruin everything. Marcus's pistol twitched upward, now trained squarely at Daniel's head. If you so much as scratch her again, you'll never speak another word yourself. Daniel laughed, but the sound was brittle. His bravado was cracking. He was no longer in full control. Evelyn had said too much. Marcus's mind raced. They'll come for all of us. Who was they? What had Evelyn gotten involved in? He thought he knew the enemy in front of him, but now he wasn't so sure. Evelyn's voice wavered. Marcus, please. Put the gun down. Take Lily and leave. If you stay, none of us walk out alive. Marcus's fury collided with confusion. He wanted to scream at her, demand answers, but Lily's terrified eyes locked onto his, forcing his focus back to what mattered most. He shook his head. His voice was firm, final. No one takes her from me. Not you. Not him. Not whoever you're protecting. She is mine. The words hit Evelyn like a blade. Her lips trembled, her face pale. For the first time, her certainty wavered. Daniel sneered, but Marcus caught it, the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Evelyn had revealed too much, and the cracks in their plan were showing. Marcus steadied his pistol, his chest burning with fury and love. He could feel the storm building, the truth pressing closer, ready to explode. And when it did, it wouldn't just change Lily's life. It would tear apart everything Marcus thought he knew about his family and the danger waiting outside the garage walls. The garage was no longer just a room. It was a war zone. Shadows stretched long across the concrete floor, the light bulb above buzzing faintly, threatening to burn out. Lily's sobs had grown weaker, her little body trembling, her wrists raw and bleeding from the ropes. Every muffled cry pierced Marcus's chest like a bullet. He kept his pistol steady, his finger brushing the trigger, his entire body coiled like a predator ready to strike. But Evelyn's words still rang in his ears. If you don't walk away, they won't stop. They'll come for all of us. Daniel's smirk was gone now, replaced with agitation. Sweat beaded across his forehead, his grip on the knife tightening as though the blade was the only control he had left. His eyes darted between Marcus and Evelyn, anger rising. You talk too much, Daniel snapped at her. You'll ruin everything. Evelyn's arms dropped to her sides, her hands shaking. It's already ruined, she whispered. Look at her. She gestured toward Lily, who sobbed harder at the sudden movement. Evelyn's face contorted, guilt mixing with defiance. This was never supposed to happen like this. Marcus seized on her words. Then tell me what this is, he demanded, his voice sharp, commanding. No more half-truths. No more silence. Who are you protecting? Who is they? Evelyn's eyes flickered toward Daniel, then back to Marcus. Fear coursed through her expression. You don't understand. Daniel slammed the knife against the chair again, wood splintering under the force. Lily screamed into the duct tape, her body jerking violently. Enough! Daniel roared, his voice cracking. This isn't about who she belongs to. It's about control. And you lost it the day you walked out on deployment. Marcus's fury boiled over. I didn't walk out. I went to serve, to protect us. And while I was bleeding overseas, you were here. His voice broke, his eyes locking onto Evelyn. You were here tearing this family apart. Evelyn's lips trembled, her face pale. For the first time, tears gathered in her eyes. But she said nothing. Daniel sneered, jabbing the knife closer to Lily's throat. And now you're going to watch her slip away, soldier. You'll know what it feels like to lose everything. Marcus's vision tunneled. He felt the walls of the garage closing in, every sound magnified. Lily's muffled sobs, Daniel's ragged breaths, the faint creak of the chair under Lily's weight. Time slowed. He took a single step forward, his voice calm but deadly. If you hurt her, I'll end you where you stand. You won't even have time to breathe. Daniel's grin returned, but it was fragile now, a mask cracking at the edges. You don't scare me. But Marcus wasn't talking to scare him. He was talking to survive. Marcus! Evelyn's voice shook, breaking the tension like glass shattering. He turned his head slightly, keeping his pistol trained on Daniel. Her eyes glistened with tears now, her voice trembling. If you pull that trigger, if you kill him, they'll know. They'll come for her. They'll never stop. Marcus's stomach dropped. Ooh, he barked. Evelyn's lips parted, but Daniel lunged. In one swift motion, he yanked the chair back, dragging Lily with it. His knife pressed hard against her throat. Lily's scream was muffled but shrill, her whole body trembling as the blade cut shallow into her skin. Drop the gun, Daniel bellowed. His voice was wild now, desperate. Or she dies right here, right now. Marcus's entire body locked. His pistol remained raised, but his heart hammered, threatening to break through his chest. Lily's wide eyes locked on his, begging him, pleading silently through tears. Evelyn gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Daniel, stop. This wasn't the plan. Shut up, he barked at her, his grip tightening on the chair. His eyes were wild, sweat pouring down his face. He doesn't give up, she dies. That's how this ends. Marcus steadied his breath. His voice dropped to a whisper, meant only for Lily, though everyone heard it. I've got you. I promise. I won't let him take you. Daniel's grip faltered for a fraction of a second. Marcus saw it. The fear, the crack in his control. Evelyn saw it too, her face crumbling with panic. The truth was pressing at the edges of a night, ready to explode. Marcus knew the next few seconds would decide everything. Lily's life, Evelyn's secrets, and whether this night ended in blood or survival. His finger pressed harder against the trigger, and in that suffocating silence, Marcus whispered, more to himself than to anyone else, "This ends now." The knife pressed so tightly against Lily's neck that a thin line of blood glistened under the harsh garage light. Her muffled scream tore through Marcus's chest like shrapnel. He steadied his pistol, every muscle coiled, his finger on the trigger. The soldier in him knew one wrong move could cost his daughter her life. Drop it, Daniel screamed, his voice raw, desperate. His hand trembled as he gripped the knife, sweat pouring down his face. The arrogance was gone now, replaced by panic and fury. Drop the gun, or she's gone. Marcus's heart thundered. His voice came out low, steady, carved from steel. If you kill her, you don't walk out of this garage alive. Daniel's laugh was unhinged, brittle. You think I care? You think any of this matters? You've already lost. She's not yours. She was never yours. Lily sobbed harder, thrashing weakly against the ropes. Her wide eyes locked on Marcus, pleading with him not to give up. Marcus, please. Evelyn's voice broke through, shrill and shaking. She stepped forward, tears spilling down her cheeks. Put the gun down. You don't understand. They're already watching. If you kill him, you sign her death sentence. Marcus's gaze cut to her. Who? He demanded, his voice sharp. Who is watching? Evelyn's lips trembled, her hands twisting together. She looked like a woman being torn apart from the inside. The men Daniel works for. They're not going to let Lily disappear. They'll never let her live a normal life. If you shoot him, if you fight back, they'll come for her. The words slammed into Marcus. His stomach twisted, his breath faltering. This wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just infidelity. Evelyn had tied Lily's fate to something far darker, something Marcus didn't yet fully understand. Daniel snarled, jerking the knife tighter against Lily's skin. Shut up, Evelyn. You say one more word and I'll do it. Marcus snapped, his pistol locked on Daniel. His voice was thunder. Do it, and you'll be dead before her body hits the floor. The garage fell into suffocating silence. Daniel's hand shook harder now, his eyes wild, darting between Marcus's unwavering aim and Evelyn's panicked tears. Marcus's voice dropped, cold and commanding. You've got one chance. Let her go. Daniel's breath came ragged, his confidence crumbling. He pressed the knife just hard enough to draw another thin trickle of blood from Lily's skin, but his hand shook violently. For the first time, fear cracked through his face. Evelyn lunged forward suddenly, her voice shrill. Stop! Please, Daniel, stop. This wasn't supposed to happen. You were only supposed to scare him, not. Her words hung in the air like a confession. Marcus's stomach dropped. He turned his glare on her. You planned this. Evelyn froze, guilt flashing across her face. Daniel sneered. Of course she did. You think I showed up here with ropes and knives by accident? She wanted you broken, soldier. She wanted you out. The truth detonated inside Marcus. His wife, the woman he had fought to come home to, had staged this. She hadn't just betrayed him with another man. She had orchestrated a nightmare that left their daughter bound and bleeding in a garage. Lily's muffled cries rose higher, raw and desperate. Marcus's hands tightened on the pistol. His voice came out like a growl. Let her go. Daniel's grin faltered. His eyes flicked toward Evelyn, searching for backup, but she was frozen, her mask shattered. She hadn't expected it to go this far. Marcus took a step forward, his pistol aimed squarely at Daniel's forehead. You wanted to break me? His voice was fire. You picked the wrong man. Daniel's breath caught. For the first time, he looked unsure. His grip loosened, just slightly, the knife trembling against Lily's skin. That was all Marcus needed. In a blur, he shifted his weight, his finger tightening on the trigger. The pistol fired, the gunshot thundering through the garage. The knife clattered to the floor. Daniel staggered backward, his body jerking as the bullet struck his shoulder. He collapsed against the workbench, screaming in pain, clutching the wound as blood poured down his arm. Lily sobbed hysterically, the rope still binding her to the chair. Evelyn gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Marcus rushed forward, his pistol still aimed at Daniel. With his free hand, he ripped the knife away, kicking it across the garage. He dropped to his knees in front of Lily, tearing the duct tape from her mouth. Daddy, she cried, her voice hoarse and broken. Marcus's chest shattered, but he forced a shaky smile. I've got you, baby. I've got you. Evelyn stumbled forward, her voice frantic. Marcus, stop. You don't understand. If you kill him, if you finish this, they'll come for us all. Marcus turned his glare on her, his eyes blazing. No, they'll come for you, because you brought this into our home. Daniel groaned from the floor, blood pooling beneath him, his laugh weak, but mocking. You think this ends with me? You have no idea what you've started. Marcus's arms tightened protectively around Lily. His pistol remained aimed at Daniel, but his mind raced. Evelyn's warning and Daniel's taunt pointed to the same thing. This wasn't over. The real enemy was still out there. And when they came, Marcus knew he'd be ready. The smell of gunpowder and blood clung to the garage like a suffocating fog. Daniel writhed on the floor, his hand pressed desperately to his shoulder as crimson spread across his shirt. His laughter came in broken gasps, each one weaker than the last, but still cruel. You think you've saved her, soldier? He choked, his grin twisted through the pain. This isn't the end. They'll come for you. They'll come for her. And when they do, you won't be ready. Marcus kept his pistol leveled at him, every nerve on fire. He had been trained for ambushes, for battles in deserts and jungles, but never for war inside his own home. Lily clung to him, her arms wrapping tightly around his neck, her sobs soaking into his shirt. He kissed the top of her head, whispering hoarsely, "You're safe now. I promise." But even as he said it, Evelyn's words clawed at his mind. If you kill him, they'll come for her. Marcus looked up at her. Evelyn stood frozen near the corner, her arms limp at her sides, her face pale. For the first time, tears streamed down her cheeks. cutting through the hardened mask she had worn all night. "You planned this," Marcus said, his voice low and sharp like broken glass. "You let him tie her up. You let her bleed. And for what? To break me?" Evelyn shook her head violently, her voice trembling. "No, Marcus, you don't understand. It wasn't supposed to go this far. He was only supposed to scare you, to push you to walk away. I never thought he'd. Never thought." Marcus cut her off, fury flaring in his eyes. "You brought a monster into our home and handed him our daughter. Don't you dare pretend you didn't know what would happen." Evelyn's sobs grew louder. She stumbled forward, reaching a hand out toward Lily. "She's my daughter too. I did this to protect her." Lily shrank back into Marcus's chest, burying her face against him. The rejection was instinctive, raw. Daniel coughed out another bitter laugh from the floor. "Protect her? You sold her. You both did. She was never yours to protect." The words froze the air. Marcus's stomach clenched, his finger tightening on the trigger. He stared down at Daniel, his voice low and lethal. "What are you talking about?" Daniel grinned through the blood on his lips. "Ask your wife. Ask her who she made a deal with." Marcus's glare snapped to Evelyn. Her face collapsed, her body trembling. She opened her mouth but couldn't form the words. The silence was deafening. Marcus pieced it together in his mind. The they Evelyn had warned about, the reason Daniel kept taunting, the papers that had been prepared long before tonight. This wasn't just about infidelity. This was about ownership. Evelyn had tied Lily to something darker, something beyond them. He turned his pistol back to Daniel. "Who are they?" Daniel smiled weakly, his head rolling against the concrete. "Too late. They already know." His laughter broke into a cough, then silence. His body stilled, his chest rising shallowly, blood pooling beneath him. Marcus stayed frozen for a long moment, the pistol still raised. The only sound left was Lily's soft sobbing against his chest. Finally, he lowered the gun. His eyes met Evelyn's, his voice breaking with fury and sorrow. "You destroyed this family, and you don't get to come near her again." Evelyn's face crumpled, her knees buckling. She dropped to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "Marcus, please. I didn't mean..." But he didn't listen. He turned, tearing the ropes from Lily's wrists and lifting her into his arms. She clung to him desperately, whispering through sobs, "Daddy, don't let her take me. Please." Marcus's chest broke, but his voice was steady as he kissed her forehead. "She won't. You're mine, Lily. Always mine." He walked out of the garage, carrying his daughter into the night, leaving Evelyn sobbing in the shadows and Daniel bleeding on the floor. The cool air hit his face as he stepped into the driveway, his daughter's heartbeat pounding against his chest. The world outside was quiet, but Marcus knew it wouldn't stay that way. Evelyn's warnings and Daniel's taunts had made one thing clear. There was a larger storm coming. But for now, he had won the only battle that mattered. He had saved his daughter. And no matter what waited beyond this night, no matter what darkness Evelyn had invited into their lives, Marcus swore silently to himself. He would never let Lily go. Not to them, not to her mother, not to anyone.